Let me move on to my next guest who is here. Ian Ramdhanie, criminologist. He is attached, and he's been with us before. We've been fortunate to have him. He's attached to the Caribbean Institute for Security and Public Safety. As a matter of fact, he is the principal there. And there's an article that came out a couple of months ago that caught my attention. And some of the things identified there, echoed in that article, were familiar ones, because folks know about it. However, what was striking about it are some of the solutions that you proffered that I thought were most interesting. Happy New Year to you, Ian Ramdhanie. Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Well, same to you and your wide listenership.
It is good to see you again, and we truly appreciate it. As you know, you see I'm doing breaking the speed limit this morning. So let me continue doing that. One of the biggest problems facing Trinidad and Tobago concerns the criminal justice system. Overall, it has not stepped up to the plate, is what you claim. We know for a fact a properly working criminal justice system will get innocent people to trial quickly, will get people to a proper hearing, will have them sentenced, will have them serve their time, and or will have them appeal if, in fact, things are equal. But the beginning at the ground level, one must be able to detect. There is a shortage, a percentage of detection that's frightening, 17%. That is unsustainable anywhere in the world. The Prime Minister, after his administration's two-day retreat, said a manpower audit in the police service will be chaired by Professor Ramesh Deosaran to conduct a manpower audit, and that will tell the government where we are, who they are, the police, what are they doing? How are they deployed? And how effective is the deployment? Is this, to you as a criminologist, Ian Ramdhanie, a good start and consistent with the direction you suggest that should correct the problem we have in the service from the levels of detection?
Absolutely, yes. I think this audit is long overdue. We have been hearing different persons saying police should be realigned in this particular way, reassessed, etc., redeployed manpower. It's a management issue. But these are just sporadic little contributions people are making along the way. Mm-hmm. What is really needed is an official study of the law enforcement, which is the police service in this instance. Mm-hmm. And I think this manpower audit, the potential that it can deliver is tremendous. To the extent of how it's done, is another issue. And then to what extent also are the results used? As you know, in Trinidad and Tobago, there are a number of studies that are done on various aspects of the criminal justice system. And you always have the problem of implementation.
Is it encouraging that initially it is going to be chaired by Ramesh Deosaran, who was a member of the police service before the police commission?
Yes, absolutely, yes. I think it does well. It does well for his manpower audit. Professor Deosaran has tremendous expertise, both as an academic and a policymaker and a researcher. So I think it will be in good hands. I expect a lot to come out from it. I think there's a team that was established as well.
That's right.
Yeah, and I look forward to the results. But most importantly, again, to the implementation of what was recommended, what will be recommended.
Yes, many times folks think that these studies are put in place and then the reports are put to see how well the spiders will interact with them, and they just sit there until another 4 years, and then we go back, we need another probe, we need another investigation, we need another audit. But you feel encouraged that this time there is the seems to be the political will to in fact get the right answers, scientific answers, and to make a meaningful deployment because of the dictate of crime and murders in this country. And the whole panic that's with the citizenry puts them in a position where you have to find the political will to get this done and implemented.
Yes, I will take the optimistic approach that I think something good is going to come out of this study here. Yeah, I'm going to be optimistic about it. Yeah.
Ian Ramdhanie is my guest criminologist. He's the principal of the Caribbean Institute for Security and Public Safety. You also suggested, Mr. Ramdhanie, that the police investigations take an inordinate length of time to be completed, and that is coupled by inadequate updates going to victims and the public? What resources, redeployment, or retraining coming out of this report from Professor Ramesh Diosaran are you expecting to see in the area of speeding up, one, the length of time in this, improving detection, and updating victims and the public as to what is going on with these investigations?
Right. Well, first of all, I would expect an assessment to be done about the length of time it takes for current investigations. For example, the manpower resources that are there, do they currently take 6 months to investigate a homicide, 3 months for a robbery, etc. So we'll need some kind of information coming out of this audit about the manpower, the current manpower allocation, and to what extent they deliver on investigations. Arising out of that now, these researchers will also have what we call the best practices in the industry internationally. About an average time, for example, it may take about, 6 months again to investigate a particular crime. We should be able to reallocate now our manpower resources as well as other physical resources in the police service to achieve these targets. So there should be targets set for, again, general targets for investigations of various crimes and offences.
The hopeful level of detection bandied about is 30%. If we could get up to 30%, at least that's a good start. I mean, one would like it to be at 50 and more, but 30% is a good start when you consider right now we're at 17.
Correct. That will be 100%, generally about 100% increase in detection rate from what is currently. So that will be a good start.
Even the Prime Minister was unhappy with the use of stats to justify a safer environment when in fact the public is not feeling one. That was echoed today by columnist and senior counsel Martin Daly, talking about the way in which crime stats are used, and it barely confuses the public and really does not impact. Do you think it's about time the police stop using these crime stats to justify what they say is a reduction in crime, when in fact you have, on the other hand, while they may identify major crimes, murder is a major crime. So on the one hand, they're giving you an explanation as to major crimes are down here, and then we see murders going up. Do you think it's time they stop using these numbers? Is what I'm asking.
No, they can't stop using the numbers.
Okay.
As a criminologist, you would expect numbers to be used. What you have to rely on is the accuracy of those numbers, the reliability of those numbers, how they were collected, how they were recorded, how they were registered, how they were classified by the police service. There should be an independent organization or entity that should oversee this classification of crimes. It can't be left to the police to classify their own work. All right? And that way you have the manipulation of crime figures. I'm not saying it's happening here, but that way the potential increases drastically. And systems have been done elsewhere, where there are these independent oversight bodies that can look at this classification of crimes, because a lot of things, there are a lot of processes that goes through before a crime is actually classified as a murder, manslaughter, a robbery, etc. A number of things happen along this way. A number of individuals come in the process along the way, that things could go either here or there. Some criminologists place very little faith on the actual crime figures. In fact, the only reliable one you can really count on is homicide, because there's actual body.
Right.
All the robberies and larcenies and burglaries, those things could be manipulated easily.
And you mentioned that, and it's true, it can be manipulated, but folks have said, from what I have gathered, extrapolated from the comments in the public domain, it is not that we're saying that you're giving us wrong numbers or you're playing with the numbers. We are saying that you're putting a priority on one part that for some reason masks the street reality,
right?
And conflating those things, it's not working.
No, there's a but in here. Many times the numbers doesn't reflect the actuality out there. Many times the reported crime figures are just that. It's just that those reported, that were reported.
Yes.
But there's the whole percentages out there that are not reported at all, which doesn't really reflect the real crime situation.
The voice you're hearing is that of criminologist Ian Ramdhanie from the Caribbean Institute for Security and Public Safety. My guest, you're happy to have him. You mentioned that we spent our early time talking about the police service. There's another big bridge here, which is the question of the courts. Second arm of justice is the courts. You said courts take too long to call cases to trial. They're taking too long to do that. And then you've got the question of postponements and adjournments. You also suggest suggested that the court set reasonable time frames for cases to be called and dealt with after the investigation has been completed. Detail, please.
Yes. We all know of the headaches of the judicial system at the magistrate level and the high court level, and even at the appeal court level. Things take too long to be heard. There's need for really an overhaul of the entire criminal justice system, and not just necessarily the courts. There's a need for overhaul the police system, the courts, as well as the prison system. But all work together. There are simple things that need to be done. For example, where we have in the magistrate court level, where the magistrate will spend several hours per day just calling cases and names. Several hours just calling cases and names. And they are just left with a couple hours after lunch to hear one or two matters.
Yes,
so that can be efficient.
yes.
Some other system have to be done, which have been done elsewhere. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We can learn from other societies, other jurisdictions, and customize it a little bit to suit our society. There's use of technology. Again, is there the need to line up everybody in front of the magistrate court every morning? No.
So that there has to be something put in by the system that gets rid of that. That can happen somewhere else, away from occupying the judge's time, the magistrate's time.
Exactly.
And then you have a clerk bringing into the judge, magistrate, these are the cases we have, now let's move on with it. Right. Or you put 15 minutes before actual trial time that everybody is to report. If that is the case, the matter is over. I understand exactly what you're saying. There is this big question of sentencing disparities. That is another thing that undermines public confidence in the system, and in the case of some criminals, give them the feeling that they can do things with impunity because the sentence, depending on where you go, may be lighter than somewhere else. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Importantly to note, in early 2000, a new law was passed, the Sentencing Commission Act, in early 2000.
What happened to that? I never heard about it.
Right, exactly. Most society, probably 99.9% of society wouldn't have heard of that act. The Sentencing Commission Act was performed. In that act, there also we established a body which is supposed to overview and look and review and analyze the different types of sentences that have been prescribed, come up with some solutions, identify these disparities, and make recommendations, as well as engage in public education.
A sort of standardization
Yes.
of these. Okay.
However, to date, about 15 years later, that commission has not even been established. So there's no one looking after these interests. But even despite that, there are guidelines in our sentencing of the various criminal acts that judges and magistrates are supposed to be prescribing sentence within this range and within this range.
We have this now.
Yes, it's here already.
And are they being followed?
Right. And that everything is go to the different appeal courts. People appeal these sentences. Some sentences are beyond the limit, the range that is supposed to be given. And that matter will go to appeal court. The alleged person would say, hey, the sentence was too high.
So you're saying that we've got something on the book. Someone comes before, the accused comes before the judge, and he finds that this is particularly heinous, and he decides to go beyond the sentencing guidelines. You're saying that is what has occurred,
It has occurred already,
leading to the appeals.
Yeah, as well as also below the guidelines. Let's say it's 5 to 10 years with the sentence, right?
Okay.
And they may hit at 4 years.
Yes. Because the judge is exercising what is called discretion.
Discretion, correct.
Yeah, there are those who make the case against discretion and those who make the case for discretion. So that's going to be interesting to see how that comes down. I've left the lawyers for last. I'm going to leave them for last. There's another question I have to go into on this area. How can we simplify the appeal process that is, one, costly, lengthy, and discriminatory? How do we go about simplifying the appeal process? Because you approached, you proffered a solution to that. What would that be?
The appeal process is, I will go with the costly part first. The average person would not be able to afford the appeal process. All right? They will have to go to extreme lengths to get this funding. Okay? The appeal process also takes too long to come to the courts. Lawyers, for whatever reason, wait until the very last end of the expiration date where you can file an appeal and file his appeal, which again frustrates the criminal justice system. And that's why certain things like the death penalty cannot be implemented because of the time frame of the appeals, where the lawyers waited the very last day or two to file the appeal against the death penalty.
So let us see how this works. You get a verdict today, but you're given between now and the next year and a half to file an appeal, and they wait until the end of the year and a half and decide they're going to file at that point. What is the purpose? What is the benefit of them doing this? Why are they doing this?
For example, with the death penalty issue, because there's a 5-year time frame to execute a person after they've been found guilty. So if I frustrate the process as much as possible, 5 years will elapse.
You answered my question. The intent is to frustrate the process.
Exactly.
And that's why that is done. Okay, so this is, as far as the lengthy part of it, is costly because only those with the means can in fact take this to the Privy Council if they had to all the way. And I'm looking at my time with me, and that's why I'm going to do a jump right here. I want to get into the attorneys because the question of attorney fees, I have raised this with the head of the Law Association, who was, I guess, Mr. Moore, and Senior Counsel Amora, and we discussed that, and he is saying that depending on the quality of representation you're getting, you're going to have higher cost. That sounds, in the open market, a fairly good argument. How do you respond to that? Because because what you advocated is that we find some way of putting a cap on what these attorneys are in fact charging.
Because quality is subjective. What I determine to be a good lawyer and another person a good lawyer is quite different.
Yes.
So therefore you need to make it more scientific, more factual. For example, what I suggested, for example, for a particular type of crime, let's say robbery, if an attorney has 1 to 3 years experience, his fee range should be within this fee. 3 to 6 years, another fee. 6 and more years, another fee. And similarly for another type of crime like homicide, 1 to 3 years experience, different fees. And this will kind of give the public an idea of the kind of fees they should be allowed to pay or be asked to pay. For example, a lawyer can charge any particular fee and there's little reference point to know, well, hey, is this guy charging me too much, too little, something wrong somewhere?
Gotcha.
So you need this kind of, it's all policy. And,
but is there a way that if I wanted to hire Ian Ramdhanie, for instance, let's put you as an attorney, I wanted to hire you, is there a place I can go and find out how many cases you have tried and what the results were and stuff like that? Can I do that kind of referencing anywhere?
Not generally, no.
I was just curious because
you
that is something.
You may be able to ask the law association who may be able to provide you some guidance.
And the reason I asked that, because that is consistent with what you're proposing. If I've got a range of time you've been practicing in this area, I have the years is going to tell me, is going to work with how much I have to pay for you. If I have some way of grading your success, at least from the court level, if I have some way of grading that, I may decide to use somebody else, which will expand the field of attorneys who are, as you said, quote unquote good.
Yes.
Because I may get some other people inside. All right, I'm really close on my time with that. I do want to take you to the area of the prisons. The overcrowding in our prisons is known to everybody. We have discussed that repeatedly. Identify and recommend to me and our listeners this morning the 3 imperatives you see for our prison system to make it more efficient.
All right. First of all, they need to adopt alternatives to incarceration, alternatives to prison. Not everybody who is found guilty of a criminal offense needs to go to prison.
That is why they use in the United States, for instance, alternative sentencing is what you're saying. I got you.
But we have the laws for that as well. We already have Community Service Orders Act. Why not are these being implemented more often? Very few people get these type of community service orders. We also have the issue, another recommendation is fines. If you hit persons where it hurt them, that might be a lesson. That might be the deterrent. Hit them in the pocket, for example, fines.
You don't go to jail and cost me more money to keep you there. Instead, I will take from what you have. If you have. Okay.
And there's also plea bargaining. Someone can plead guilty and get a lesser sentence. For example, we need to implement more of those things. We are all going back to the old traditional system of I must send you to jail, etc. There's mediation as well too, community mediation. We have those laws in China. We have about 12 community mediation centers set up by the government, which is free of charge.
Are they in fact functioning?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
So they're fulfilling their part as far as you're concerned?
Yes, but not many persons know of them. So there's a whole public education campaign that's needed to help them. For example, there's no need to go to court for certain matters. There were 12 or 15 crimes or matters that somebody could go to the mediation centers at no cost to the person.
Is there a site, a website where one can go up and see information specifically in the area of this mediation facility?
Yes, I think it's in the Ministry of Community Development. It will be that website, the Ministry of Community Development.
If I be so bold to suggest maybe the Caribbean Institute of Security and Public Safety should do a link page to assist a lot of our listeners who can go up there and, in fact, get a glance at that.
Yeah, I wrote an article a couple of weeks on it as well, so it's in The Guardian as well, as well as I will also do this link and put it up on our website and Facebook. Put it up as well.
The area that I did not raise with you, and I cannot have you as a criminologist here and discussing some of the problems we have, albeit in a speedy form, in our system, without talking about the injustice of bail with a surety. Explain exactly what that means and how, in fact, can the system of bail work, one, to be fair to everybody, because a lot of people that contribute to this overcrowding in the prisons are there because of their inability to meet bail because the surety issue, which is property. Explain that to our listeners, please.
Well, I'm not an expert in the bail matters, but generally what we found out is the insistence of the bail with surety, which is the property, right? You propose a property that will stand for the bail, but the bigger picture is the inconsistencies in bail. That is the bigger picture.
Please detail.
Right. A particular person will go to a particular justice of the peace or magistrate and get bail. Another person will go for a similar crime, similar offense, no bail. Why? So there's need for an authority again with some citizen oversight in it as well. It can't be the bailers looking after themselves. You have to have some citizen oversight in these things to examine these things and monitor these things and report these things, like how you have an ombudsman. An independent person looking after these things. You need these type of systems to look at these bail matters because money speaks.
Yes.
You can do X, Y, and Z to get your bail.
And no matter how you work this, and that's why I was so moved by looking at your response to some of the problems in the justice system that we talk about. Because on the other hand, some people will say, well, it costs money to have these things fully operational, but it costs money to keep people in an overcrowded situation in our remand. It costs a whole lot of money. The Minister of Finance has already articulated this, at least the minister who was then the minister in the Attorney General's office. He's now a minister in the Prime Minister's office. Stuart Young, Al Rari has also, the Attorney General, also made very clear how costly it is to the nation. So on the one hand, even if it initially looks as though it's going to be costly, it is going to be worth it in the long run.
Most definitely, because generally it costs around 80,000 TT to mine a prisoner for a day.
80,000
a month.
80,000 a month.
80,000 TT.
I could use that as a salary.
So you need to get proper systems, long-term systems, sustainable systems to help deal with these things. The whole issue of the prison industry, for example. Prisoners feed themselves, making items for sale, all this sort of stuff have been done elsewhere already. You need to implement these things in Trinidad. They're also already being done at a small scale, one or two persons will be doing it. But the prison system, for example, can become self-sustaining.
It can become self-sustaining.
Yep.
At another point, I'm going to have either on the air or off the air a discussion with you about a situation that's showing up in the Netherlands with the whole question of rehabilitation, which cuts down the recidivism issue, because that is one of the things we're looking at. Folks go into prison, they get their degree in criminal activity, not because they want to, but if you are there over a long period of time and you're not even seeing a judge to get your case given attention to, unfortunately, it becomes a survival of the fittest. You learn some things, and you come back out, and since it doesn't matter, it speaks for itself.
Yeah. In Trinidad and Tobago, for example, the current prison recidivism rate is 60%.
60%.
That means
recidivism.
6 out of 10 prisoners who go into prison come back in. So therefore, it's not working.
Yes.
Whatever rehabilitation system they have there is not working. Plus, the society outside too is not willing to contribute its part to rehabilitate these persons back in society.
which has to be an initiative coming from the government that says very clearly. And one of the things that has always bothered me that works to further that problem is the area. If a man served his time in prison, you're telling me about his ability to vote. He must be able to vote. He must be able to get a job. He should be able to continue. It is going to be up to the employer to say, well, because of the level of risk here, I don't want this person. But we've got to find ways to encourage the society to understand reincorporation, not as a favor to the ex-con, but as a favor to society, because if we keep isolating and alienating people to the extent we are furthering the propensity to go back to crime, and we are making ourselves more unsafe.
Yeah, and proper incentives could be given because businesses operate in dollars and cents.
That's right.
So if the necessary incentives and resources and tax breaks, etc., are given to businesses and even civil society,
yes,
it can be done.
I am so glad that you made the time to revisit us. Yes. Ian Ramdhanie, principal of the Caribbean Institute of Security and Public Safety, criminologist he is, and I thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
You're welcome.
Let us do this again sometime.
Sure, great.
Have yourself a great year.